let's take a look at our top selections. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 9 at Belmont on Sunday, October the 18th. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 2 Hill Prince Stakes, 3-year-old turf horses going a mile on the Widener. The 8 Money Moves is entered main track only. The horse to beat if this race remains on the turf, no doubt about it, is the number 3 Decorated Invader, who threw in kind of a subpar performance last time out in the Saratoga Derby. He ran okay. I wonder if that distance was just a little far for him. He was taking on some horses that might have wanted that trip a little more than he did.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I mean, if you just go by speed figures, Dan, it's, one of the better races of his career. But I agree with you. I felt like that was a little bit of a step back for him. I do think cutting back to the 1-turn mile here, the flat mile, is gonna help this horse.
Let's throw up the Timeform US Pace projector for this race, and I agree with them. I think the 1 Get Smokin' with an alert break is going to get to the front, and Chocolate Bar, the 6, might be able to get close, but I have a feeling that Get Smokin' might be able to get clear on the lead. The problem with Get Smokin' is he can be sometimes very hard to handle and slow down.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think he'll make the lead in here. And you're right. If he's going to pull off an upset in this race, he is going to have to come to hand for Javier Castellano in this race and settle a little bit. Listen, Decorated Invaders had his number so far. Another horse in here, By Land and Sea, buried him last year. But this horse is actually pretty good, and he ran deceptively well last time in the Saratoga Derby.
I agree with you because he didn't break at all. And then he pulled Luis Saez right to the front. And he actually was still in there fighting till about 150 yards out. And for understandably tiring, they tried to steal a 2 back in the Hall of Fame. Domestic Invader ran over him. I think turning back to a mile will be okay for him. The 2 is Glen County. Is Maker going to do it again? He claimed this horse for $40,000, and we've seen it time and time again. He claims turf horses. He turns them into graded stakes winners. Well, he claimed Glen County 3 back at Saratoga. He pulls off a win at Kentucky Downs last time out. We're going to watch this race. Boy, is this horse green. He's turning into the stretch. He's on the outside in sort of those yellow and blue silks, and he changes leads about 15 times in the stretch, and he still runs by everybody like it's no problem. Now, again, this is just a maiden race, and you see him drifting in as he makes his final bid, but he's pretty good. I think there's talent here. It's just whether this is too much too soon.
Yeah, agreed. He does look like he has some talent. He's definitely taken a step forward since Maker claimed him. I mean, his first start off the claim against that field of older horses, Doswell, he had no chance there and actually didn't run poorly at all. I liked his win last time, Dan, but it's at least worth pointing out they went a wicked fast pace in front of him in that race, and he may not have that kind of setup here.
Now, in the Saratoga Derby, Decorated Invader broke very well, and you could tell that Joel Rosario wanted to get him covered up, and it took him a while for that to happen because Get Smokin' took a while to get to the lead. Decorated Invader was on a pretty hard chase in that race. He made the first move at Get Smokin'. Uncharacteristically, it took a little while to change leads in the stretch, and then he was kind of one-paced in the lane. You're right. From a speed figure standpoint, he ran his usual race, but we've seen him visually do better things, and the cutback could be just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at his last race. He just didn't look like he was completely settled, even though he was sitting second to Get Smokin' in there. So I thought that might have cost him. It was a little odd to see him not just take that race over when they came to the stretch because, as you said, he struggled to get by Get Smokin' in the stretch of that race. And by the time he did that, the closers were already there, and he was never going to hold them off. I like him cutting back. And I also just like the fact, Dan, that he's just been way handier to place as a 3-year-old. He gets himself into position early in his races now, and it's really worked to his advantage. He is way the horse to beat again.
Bodhi Cream, the number 4, I've been a fan of this horse. He has a pretty strong kick when you give him enough pace, and I think he has plenty of excuses for that last race. Let's watch the Saranac. They rarely run mile races on the turf on the Mellon, but as you can see, this course is just soft, and he's in the white blinkers and the orange silks, and he tried to get into it, and he's on his left lead, and he's still actually trying hard. All these horses, I think, are struggling with the going. I think Bodhi Cream struggled with it a little bit more than some of the others.
Yeah, I do too. I thought all in all, this was a fine performance. He is a horse who he'll have to improve to win this, but I'd be willing to give him the chance to do it. at a price. This is his second start for Maker now. He gets off that boggy turf course he was on last time. And listen, he ran an 89 when he when he finished third at Fairgrounds back in February of this year. I mean, if he improves off of that number, he could be right there in this race.
Starting Over is up next. This is a horse that was claimed for $75,000 out of this race at Belmont. His first start off a long layoff, a confident claim to be sure. He's the gray horse in the green cap, and he's just going to grind this field down going a mile and a 16th. 78 buyer. He's got to improve, but he had a lot of work to do with less than a 16th of a mile to go, Mike, and he kept finding more.
Yeah, a nice finish. It wasn't that surprising to see him improve in that race, just considering his pedigree, because he's really bred for turf. And that was his first turf start, and he got it done. He's claimed by a very sharp trainer in Robbie Falcone, but they have found also a very tough spot for him first time out of the maiden ranks.
Chocolate Bar, also trained by Michael Maker. This horse won for a $40,000 maiden tag in gate-to-wire fashion. He just hasn't gotten out of the gate in his two subsequent starts at Kentucky Downs, 2 starts back. He was just sandwiched out of there. And the next thing you know, he's last, and then he's widest, and he actually only got beat ahead. It was a pretty good effort. And they ran him in the Murphy last time out. He missed the break over a yielding turf course. So I guess you can make excuses for a horse that could be in prime stalking position early.
Yeah, I guess you could make excuses, and he did, run a competitive figure 2 starts back. We'll see what happens. It's always tough. It's always tough to just totally toss these Maker horses, but I don't like this horse that much.
By Land and Sea was just so visually impressive in his second and third start last year as a 2-year-old, and he missed a lot of time. He got very, very sick. Steve Glasaris found a great spot for his return at Parks, a state-bred allowance race where he just dominated them at 2-5. And then it was kind of an interesting spot that they turned him all the way back to 5.5 in this race, the Mahoney Stakes, where Jack and Noah never gave anyone a chance from the start. He saved ground by Land and Sea. He's in the red cap, moving into second briefly. He'll end up finishing third. I just think 5.5's a little sharp for him. I think he has the tactical speed to sit third and maybe get the jump on a horse like Decorated Invader. And I don't think we've seen his best.
Agreed. I think he's the upside horse in the race. And listen, he's run fine the 2 times they've sprinted him, but he's clearly better going longer. I mean, he's 3 for 3 around 2 turns in his career. And his win in the Awad last October, it's a lot better than the speed figure would indicate, Dan, with the 76. That was a very strong pace, and he was close to it. The horses that were up there on the lead, they were nowhere in that race. And this horse held off all the closers.
Money Moves, last seen in the Kentucky Derby, has entered main track only. We move to the 9 Assiduously, who finished third last time out, very aggressively ridden. I wonder if he was just too keyed up with the blinkers. He was pressing the pace on the outside, and he just took over on the backstretch. And considering he made an early run against a pretty decent field of optional claimers, I thought this horse ran okay. It was his best race by far, in my opinion.
It was, and he was very headstrong in that race, and it probably cost him at the end. So he, took a step in the right direction for, top connections. So, with Chad taking a shot here, it almost sort of makes you take a second look at him. I can't say that I like any of his races really, Dan, but he is interesting just because he's running here.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 2 Hill Prince Stakes. I'm not against Decorated Invader. I just think he might be 4-5 at post time. And By Land and Sea has enough upside potential, and the stretch out has me intrigued, and I see you're going the same way.
Yeah, he was the only one that I really wanted to give a chance to, and I do think he could take a step forward here, which he'll have to do. Decorated Invader probably wins, but I like By Land and Sea, and I'll give him the chance.
Agreed. 7-3-4-1 for Mike, 7-3-1-2 for me. There are 2 graded stakes races at Belmont on Sunday. The Hill Prince is race number 9. Best of luck.